you would literally have to keep track of the price of Bitcoin 87 million times, and you'd have to have a different price for every transaction in the system. And then you would have to calculate when you paid your bills, every single bill would be a different mixture of Bitcoin going out the other side. And so you're talking about accounting systems that become orders of magnitude more complicated.
Welcome to the Daily Crypto. Bitcoin is currently valued at over $20,700, quite the upswing in a matter of days. Most predictions for the price of Bitcoin in the long run are bullish, and many argue that the flagship cryptocurrency should replace fiat as soon as possible. What is the future of Bitcoin? Is it possible that Bitcoin will replace gold as the standard in many countries? What about the dollar? Keep watching to find out as we answer these questions with Michael Saylor. When we say money and currency, are they really the same thing? What is the difference between money and currency? Michael Saylor says money is economic energy.
I think money is economic energy. If you have a certain amount of economic energy, let's say you have $100,000 of economic energy in the year 2022, that can be exchanged for products or services or property. Right? I can fly somewhere, I can buy something, I can, throw a party in the year 2022. Clearly, $100,000 worth of money in 2022 doesn't buy you the same goods, services, or products in the year 1900. It would buy you a lot more. And in the year 2200, won't buy you the same thing either. So you have a certain amount of money at a certain time that you can measure in a currency. The currency, in this case, the US dollar, is the medium of exchange in that political frame of reference at the time you have the money.
Saylor stresses on this point.
So fiat currencies are a method of moving energy. All of these mediums have dissipation, like they dissipate energy.
So, if we say money is economic energy, what happens when you change the economic frame of reference? Saylor weighs in on this.
$100,000 buys you a certain amount in the US, and if you go to Japan, well, it doesn't buy you anything because they don't accept dollars for restaurants. You can't buy a house in dollars. You have to convert it to yen. So you would convert that amount of money from the dollar currency into the yen currency. If you trip through 180 countries, you would have to convert it generally into the currency that's the medium of exchange and the legal tender in the country. Since most countries have a different legal currency, some countries, like in Europe, share a similar one, the euro. So money is economic energy. The currency is the medium of exchange, or it is an asset legally designated by a nation state as an acceptable medium of exchange, and it's given a legal advantage, a political advantage, because you can transfer it tax-free.
He explains that if you have $100,000 and you want to buy an expensive car with it, you can exchange the $100K via the currency into the car without paying capital gain loss on the transaction. Saylor illustrates.
If I had a bunch of Apple stock, $100,000 worth of Apple stock, I would have an asset. Actually, you could, in fact, a batch of securities worth $100,000. But if I bought the car with $100,000 of Apple stock, and I had acquired the Apple stock for $50,000, I would actually get the car and I get a tax bill for the capital gains on $50,000, right? That's what the nation state says. So for that reason, Apple stock or a bunch of securities don't make good medium of exchange, right? Even if it was liquid, right? It's not a good medium of exchange because my credit card, doesn't work so well with Apple stock, and because I can't transfer Apple stock on a Saturday afternoon. And those are reasons why I wouldn't use it in order to buy a car. But the most important reason that securities will never be currency is because it's deemed as, we'll call it property by the IRS and subject to a capital gains tax.
The currency in the modern world is whatever the government says it is, Saylor explains.
If you're in a state of anarchy, right, or chaos, let's say you're in a war zone, you're in Afghanistan after the government fell, right, while the Americans were pulling out, all the banks failed, right? Clearly, there's no effective government to designate a local Afghan fiat currency. There's no government to impose taxes, right? That's anarchy. In that particular case, if you happen to be an Afghan citizen and you're doing a trade with another Afghan citizen, you want to buy whatever they've got, their car, right, their food, you could use Bitcoin as a currency, and it would be a currency because there's no government to tell you that you can't use it as a currency.
The reason anything would be currency is if there isn't an effective nation state.
So the reason that we end up with a dichotomy, right? Money is economic energy. There's one aspect of money we'll call property. Another aspect of money we'll call currency. Mm-hmm. And both of those sum up into money. The property would be a long duration asset. If I want to own a house, if I have a house, a car, a Bitcoin, a bar of gold, even a share of stock, I suppose, or a corporation, we could all think of them as property forms of money, right? They all have economic value, but generally they all have a tax treatment. Not always the same, but oftentimes there's a taxable event when you transfer property from one person to another person. Right? Like, for example, if I traded you my house for a car, and if there's a tax on disposition of real estate, oftentimes there's a real estate tax on transfer of title, right? Not only are you going to get the capital gains tax, you're also going to get the real estate tax. So that's even worse than transferring, say, the Apple shares.
On the other hand, if there is an effective nation state, it can choose to designate one or more assets as currency, but Saylor adds, it is generally one asset. The euro, for example, or the yen, or dollar, and so on. He says they would be designated as currencies or legal tender that can be transferred tax-free. Saylor adds that if you have the support of the nation state to adopt a single currency, say Bitcoin, the first question to ask, what do we do with all these countries? After that has been figured out, he says we still have to find out what to do with all the currencies, and then figure out a way to persuade everybody. Not to mention revision of the entire accounting systems and rebuilding all the existing software systems. If you were aiming for a Herculean task, then congratulations.
I just don't think it's practical anytime in the next few decades. If we take a more realistic situation, look at Argentina right now. You have the local peso, and then you have the dollar, and then you have Bitcoin, and then you also have the real. And so if you're Argentine, you can't. There's no company in Argentina that can reject the peso and still stay in business, right? So unless you've got an idea to peacefully change out the government, I don't know how that happens, right? It's just there's no one can operate there and stay in business, right? So what you end up with is the same thing you're suggesting for Bitcoin replacing the dollar is the thing that the dollar needs to do to replace the Argentine peso, right? Mm-hmm. The dollar is a much better currency in Argentina than the peso. So if you wanted to watch how hyper Bitcoinization happens, watch how dollarization happens. And does it happen with bloodshed or without bloodshed?
Saylor adds that we need to allow for what he calls a continuum of adoption. In economy, there is a place for people to hold their own keys to a wallet. For example, there should also be a place for people to be able to hand over the custody of their keys to someone or an organization for a small period of time. Saylor says, if we are going to build a high-level civilization, we have to be open-minded in a lot of different ways. When you go to the extremes, you undermine adoption and even utility.
You need Bitcoin at layer 1. You've got Lightning, a non-custodial open layer 2, and then you've got layer 3s like Cash App and PayPal, and the exchanges, and then you've got layer 4s, securities like MicroStrategy or GBTC, where we've literally got the thing embedded in what we are, and then you've got products. You could build it into products and services. You could build a Bitcoin into a Tesla. What if I had a Tesla and I bought the Tesla and the Tesla basically was self-maintaining forever, right? Because I had enough Bitcoin in it to pay for all the electricity and also pay for the maintenance upkeep on the car. So all of these are different aspects of a digital economy, and they'll all be subject to different rules and different laws, and some things will fail and some will succeed. And if you just take an open mind and allow it all to evolve, I think people will start to see this as economically good for everybody, technically good for everyone, and morally, politically good as well. There don't have to be any losers here. Everybody can be a winner.
Saylor concludes, saying there are no enemies here. The world just divides into people who do not understand how we can help them yet, people who know, and people who we haven't talked to yet. Thanks for watching this video. What struck you as the most profound in all Saylor has said? Drop your comments in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you in the next one. Bye for now.